So, I want to talk about a couple ideas to making buildings more accessible for a wide range of disabilities and neurodivergence. So, let me start off with some, and it's going to be about 33 in total. The first one I want to talk about, and you may or may not have thought of all these, is handles in the building for doors and stuff. No, a very common handle is a round handle. The problem with round handles compared to flat ones, like a lever, is for people with motor difficulties or gripping problems, it can be a lot harder to handle. It also requires more strength to turn than a lever, where you have this lever action that pushes it down. So for all these reasons, levers are a lot better for a bunch of disabled people. The second reason I want to go over is wide spacing. And what I mean by wide spacing is simply that having big clearance, bigger hallways for people with wheelchairs or movement difficulties, or people that might need to have assistance walking, so they might need two people next to each other, or other things like that. But also, when you put in furniture or something, you might want to have wide spacing because that again clogs up the area, and you might have a hard time getting up or down, especially. So they might need even bigger spacing, or when they're moving around. Just in general, they might bump into furniture more because they're trying to sit up or get into it. Another one that might be a little less obvious for people is having, for organization, clear bins and stuff. Why clear stuff for organization or stuff that you can see through? It's because a lot of autistic people, ADHD people, or people that is facing a lot of stress and difficulties in life, we don't remember things well because they're not, well, we can remember things well, but our memory is based on what's on our mind in the moment. So if we're thinking very intently on work, we might forget to eat. But if we see something in front of us, we're much more likely to do it and take care of ourselves. And we can also keep more organized. Now, for some people, this might look more messy, but it can really help. But in the end, it's not more messy for us because we see what we're doing. It's not hidden mess. And it's a reminder for us. The fourth one I would like to go over is that floor heights should be a lot more even throughout the whole entire building. And that's because if you're in a wheelchair or walker or anything, changing drastically the floor height, like a step up and down, is a huge problem. But also if you have motor coordination difficulties, if you're not as aware of your surroundings or environment, which a lot of autistic or ADHD people have, if you have periods of hyperactivity where you're just running around like crazy, stuff like that, or everyone falls down, but if you have a disability or something and fall down, it might be a lot worse. So even if it doesn't cause you to fall down, even if you don't have something that make it hard for you to transverse, it can make the impact a lot worse. The fifth one, I would say, is a quiet space or room. And what I don't mean by this more is a room that there isn't a lot of sensory info. It's not bright, there's not a lot of clutter, there's not a lot of visual stimuli, it's quiet stuff for a person to relax and settle down when they're overloaded or overwhelmed or be alone, and maybe a comfy place to sit. And it doesn't have to be a big room. Even sometimes a small room is better because then you don't have to like this big expanses that surrounds you. It's empty and kind of scary. It's like I get scared by big empty open spaces. Like just a quiet little space. Next one is I say one floor livable. And that's because people are going to spend most of their life on one floor usually. Even if it's easy for them to go up and down one floor. And having one floor livable means that you see everything on that one floor a lot more, which means you can better maintain it and keep it up to spec and remember stuff like eating and stuff. But also, having one floor livable is a lot better if you're going to ever have a disability issue that makes it harder for you to climb up and down the stairs. And having everything close together makes it easier to live when you're disabled. The seventh one is one that I'm really, really big on, and that people forget, but a lot of disabled people really do not like carpet. And there's many reasons why carpet is awful. Carpet is super hard to clean. which means if you're disabled, cleaning is already much more difficult, and you're more likely to make a mess by spilling stuff or something. It's a lot more likely to trap allergens. And allergens can really, if you have an immune system disorder, it can make any autoimmune disease or any immune system disorder worse by overstimulating your immune system. It can make you just generally feel sicker if you have already other sickness. If you have breathing difficulties, which can just all wear down your health in general, make anyone less healthy. Beyond that, it can also be hard for some people with certain tires on wheels and stuff to use or move around, and that can hurt their mobility. It's also more likely to get messed up and have to be replaced or stuff like that, and more costly. And a lot of people with disabilities already do not have as much money as the average folk. So that all makes it much, much, much worse overall. Now, the second one is making sure your doors quietly open and close so it doesn't startle people with noise sensitivity. And noise sensitivity is not only people with like autism and ADHD with that, but also it can be people with sleep problems. It can be people with anxiety issues. It can be people with PTSD and CPTSD, complex PTSD, even if it's not caused by something that was noisy. Because when you start getting PTSD or CPTSD stuff, anything that makes loud and noise can make you anxious. Because, like, have you ever felt really anxious or anyone that's like easily freaked out? And it might not be something totally, it might be that you're overwhelmed. And it says boo and you start freaking out. Any trauma can be generalized to noise anxiety. And that's what I'm saying here for making the doors quiet. Also, the doors should fit well into the frame, and that there shouldn't be like large air gaps or something to keep out noise from the outside or breezes and stuff like that, which might disrupt someone who has particularly sensitive to noises or sensory issues and might hear the tiniest noise of wind and stuff. And it's not always about the intensity of noise. For some people with noise sensitivity, it can also just be the amount of noises or little noises everywhere. Another one is to make the ceilings and everything not too high. And also, don't make any of the cabinets too high up that you need to use, or any of the equipment, because it can be a lot harder stretching out if you're disabled or you might be in a wheelchair or something. But also, let's say you have to repair something in the house. Let's say you have to change a light bulb and the ceiling's really high. That's a lot harder if you have mobility or motor coordination is really disabled. You might not get to it, or you might be overwhelmed, or that painting it, or the heating costs also go up, and that if you're disabled, you have less probably disposable cash to pay on already. Now, you could say, why don't you hire someone to fix it? Well, that's just another burden on your daily life. And you have to hire people, and that just makes it more difficult. So just having stuff not too high. And it also really, again, might lower heating and utility cost, which is great for someone that always doesn't have that much money. Again, with the quietness is making machines that are more or less quiet in the whole house or place. Quieter machines are less likely to bother autistic people or people with noise-sensitive anxiety issues. Now, some machines you might want them to beep or something when they're done or something, but it would be really nice if there's an option to, and they have this with some machines, not a lot, to change the beeping settings so it's either louder or quieter, or makes different noises, because some noises are a lot more disruptive to certain people, and that can be a case-by-case basis. But to some extent are still more disruptive noises that are less natural, because you can see that like car honking is a lot worse than oftentimes than the sound of a waterfall to a lot of people. Rain noise is usually not as bad to a lot of people as a lot of people talking at the same volume, and so on. And police, ambulances, and sirens can be a lot worse than stuff. And that has to do with the frequency distribution. It's more of a chaotic one without a pattern, and there's cutoffs are usually harsher ones. This one is one that simple cook. What I mean by that is that cooking is a lot harder if you're disabled, and also you want to save money. Now, simple cooking devices include like rice cookers that are you don't have to turn on and off that much. Well, you turn them on, but you don't have to worry about them overcooking as much and everything. You don't have to watch them. A microwave also can do this, even though it makes a lot of beeping noises. Stuff like that. Another thing to look into a lot is how reliable everything is. Because remember, whenever something breaks down, it's a lot harder for a disabled person to repair it because they don't have the physical capabilities. It can also be harder for them to schedule things because of executive dysfunction, get to it. They might have issues with people coming over and working with people, but also they might have this less disposable income to repair it or time to sit and watch someone do it. And repairs can take a long time, and they might say it will only take an hour, but you have to block out a whole day. Button and touch things. So I think most things should have a button option and a touch display. Touch displays do not always work for some disabled people. Why? Well, sometimes they're wearing gloves or something that get in the way of touch devices. Sometimes the hand is too shaky, or sometimes they need a tactile feedback and they don't feel the tactile feedback as much as with a button. Now, buttons are not always the best either because they can have loud clicking noise, or there can be too much sensory input, or it can be hard to use on a touch screen. They can have more options and cool setups. And touchscreens you can do stuff a lot faster, so that might be better for someone disabled, is the quickness of it. So you want to have both options on a device, ideally. Now, I don't see that all devices yet can have a touchscreen. Also, buttons can be more easily cleaned off than a touchscreen, and touchscreen might actually spread germs more. But that's kind of a separate topic. Another thing is voice controls could be very nice. So people do not have to get up all the time to move stuff, which can be very helpful if someone has mobility issues or someone's very sick and have a hard time getting up. But also, sometimes people do not remember stuff when they're disabled, feel overwhelmed, and then they just don't, then every little thing, even walking 10 feet, can be a huge deal because then they might forget what they're doing. So yes, that is actually a bigger concern than you would think. Now, there's also a problem with voice activations that some people have trouble talking, just talking plain. Some people have odd speech patterns, some have speech disabilities, so voice controls and some accents they can't recognize. So we try to make it able to recognize more voice and stuff, but it might not always work out. And they also might get confused at times with things that sound alike. So voice activation is not the ideal solution I'm painting it out to be, but it might be part of the puzzle. And everything here is just a part of the puzzle. For showers, a bigger shower head is better with more evenly distributed, so it feels less harsh when the water comes down, which is less likely, more like a nice rainstorm that's quiet than a harsh beating, which can help people with sensory processing issues and make people feel more comfortable in the shower, more relaxed, which also is better for their mental health. Next page. Having the option to have a bath is really nice. And the reason why having a bath is really nice is compared to these other things is a bath, you don't have the water come at you and stuff like that. So for some people with sensory processing issues, it can really help them calm down. Also, a hot bath can have, or even a cold bath, can have very positive health benefits for certain things. It can help lower inflammation. It can have positive psych benefits. I don't make it too dramatic, but it does have positive benefits for some people and their health in other ways. Now, not everyone does enjoy taking a bath, and it does use up more water. Another thing is to make sure the bathroom has no slip pads in the actual bathtub, and outside the bathtub, because people are more likely, especially with mobility issues, but also people with motor coordination issues, a lot more common autism community and stuff, are more likely to slip and hurt themselves. And by putting that, they're more likely to use the bathroom and keep clean because they're not worried about that, but they're also less likely to hurt themselves. And keeping clean means they're more likely to stay healthy and people to accept them outside. And if you have something that's not disability related to slipping and falling, hurting yourself, this still helps you. Because if you slip and fall, it's still a worse condition oftentimes. Full electric off. Well, people are not aware that a lot of devices, they actually do not fully turn off the electricity when you use them. This might seem a little weird, but there's still a little flow, and that makes a buzzing sound. And for some people with extreme noise sensitivity, this is a real issue. It also raises a little electricity. And not only is it a real issue that turning it off causes all this noise sensitivity, and it also increases your power bill. Again, people disabled more likely have less disposable income. It just adds up, all these little noises. And also, it's more likely to cause, if you can't turn the electricity fully off on all the switches and devices. And I'm also talking about devices that you plug into a switch. It is a full on and off button that really turns it off the power. And, well, so car stops buzzing, like in power cords and buzzing power cords. Now, I want to add that a lot of switches are extremely noisy. These noisy switches can be replaced nowadays with less noisy switches that work just as well. There is a reason why historically switches are noisy, and that's because they had to turn on and off really quickly. And the reason why you have to turn on and off really quickly, fun fact, is that there's a brief thing with two pieces of metal, when there's a brief gap, that electricity can still flow through it, but there's a gap. And then there's air here. And then during this brief point, the metal really heats up a lot, and the air in between, it's only a tiny bit, and the air becomes more oxidative because the electricity acts like a catalyst or something, and gives energy for the oxygen to corrode the metal. And that means like a slow turning on and off switch actually doesn't last very long. Now, if you turn it on and off fast, it will last forever. So they made these switches so that it really clicks in really fast when it pulses and clicks out really fast, so that a gap doesn't last less than a millisecond. Nowadays, there's ways of easily manufacturing stuff so you don't have that trouble. For example, instead of having two contacts here, go minus and plus go into each other, why don't you have it be a minus bar here, a plus bar here, and then you have something quickly swing in here. If you have something quickly swing in here, it can close it even faster because you're closing a gap here and a gap here. So something swings in the middle between two wires. Instead of these two wires bringing together, it's closing a middle gap. It's like closing twice as fast. Now you can have another one here. You can have mobile gaps like this, so you can make it 4 times faster or something like that with more complex designs. And then you can make it so it has to be less with a spring or other mechanism that clicks in with a harsh sound by slowing down the actual movement of the devices, but the gaps close faster. Kind of a side tangent, but interesting to notice. Now, with toilets. Toilets make a lot of noises, and I made a whole video about how to make toilets quieter, but they're very disruptive, and figuring out how to make it more quieter is going to help with all this noise sensitivity. Also, sometimes people do not like the toilet seat because it's too, it makes a lot of noise when you close and open it with this hard slamming, and it also just feels weird with the coldness. So having a fluffy toilet seat can help that partially. Air vents. Okay, so air venting is a bigger deal than people make it out to be. And you want to have a lot of ability to vent air around the whole house in case there's a bad smell or bad air in the house, which has bothered me multiple times because people are smoking in the building or something like that where they're not supposed to. But also fresh air can be calming and soothing. Now you also want to be easily closed so you don't let in bad cities air or other things, or wind or bugs don't fly in. So like air venting can be better. It also can cool down the house cheaply faster. Don't make the house too flashy or bright so it doesn't overstimulate people that are autistic or have ADHD or processing disorders, stuff like that. Just not too flashy. Keep the colors mute and easy to, and more on the dull side. Nice wooden colors, nice brick colors, not flashy neon ones. If you want to use efficient light bulbs, choose LEDs, and some LEDs you can change the color setting to make it different colors or change the warmness and stuff. Fluorescent light bulbs oftentimes flicker a lot, and that flickering can bother a lot of autistic people or people with sensory processing disorders. Another idea I want to present is to have the vents in the house for air conditioning and everything be more distributed and bigger vents. And this will make them be able to be quieter because they cannot, because they're not blowing out from the small hole as much, just more gently throughout it, and you don't feel the airflow as much if you don't want to. The floors should be easy to clean, because cleaning can be a very difficult task for a lot of people with disabilities, and we're more likely to make a mess, and hiring people out can be expensive, especially if you're not making as much income. And also, even if you do hire support work and stuff, they may not want to spend all the time cleaning the floors. They may want to spend time helping you in other ways. Easy clean floors would be tiles, the synthetic plastic flooring, vinyl, certain wood flooring, not all wood flooring. There has to be wood flooring that is good against water and has a really nice coating. But stuff like that. The 25th one I want to say is the house will look different on the outside from other houses. And this is actually a big deal because it can be kind of creepy when every house looks in a row the exact same to a lot of people. But beyond that, and kind of feeling closing, beyond this, like the psychological thing, it can make it a lot easier for people to navigate with a lot of disabilities, because a lot of us have trouble with our spatial, with just awareness of our surroundings, so more likely to pass something. But also, we have more trouble just navigating with basic directions around cities and stuff. So having houses look more different gives us better markers for everything. And also have the numbers very nicely and clearly on the outside of the building. 26 is make sure your floors are not very noisy. And that also is a big deal, just so people can also just get better sleep. Everything. Do not let too much light in. This is a big one and really bothers me because that really disrupts my sleep. And I also have extreme light sensitivity and it makes migraines. So just having, now, you can't let a lot of light in during the, when windows and stuff is open. That can be a nice natural way of seeing the outside world, and it can be soothing, and it can also lower your electric bills. But I'm saying that the curtains should really shut out all the light when you close the curtains, and most curtains do not. Or there should be some rooms in the house that's possible, and especially the bedrooms should be really well so you can make the bedroom extremely dark with no peaks of light. Another option is that you should have faucets that let in water slowly, not all at once. Because when the water comes in all at once, boom, that can be hard for someone to control with not fine motor skills, that they have to, it's all or nothing. And it also can cause sensory issues. The faucet handle, again, should not be round, it should be a level handle. The walls should be easy to clean for the same reason as everything else. Ceiling not too high. I kind of already went over that with other things being not too high. But again, that easy repair, easier for everything to do. If you have smoke alarms, also it's easier for you to turn off the smoke alarms. If there's not, it should be turned off. You should also try to have bigger doors for people that might have come in with a walker or stretcher, or might come in two at a time or something because of them needing aids or something, or they have just difficulties navigating. Sometimes it might also be useful. I go back and forth with sliding doors because they can open up wider, and you don't have it that you open up a door and it hits you, or you have to open up the door and back up and it pushes you back in the hallway or something like that. You can just slide them open and close. But then again, you might also have to reach out more farther. So I go back and forth on that one. Well, thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard. But with your help, I think you can do it. Also, if any ideas for future videos, comments, or suggestions, please leave in the comment section below. Again, thank you very much. Goodbye.